Oh, you're here. Good. I've got another betrayal story for you. Sit down. They asked her one question in front of the camera, and with a single word, my life cracked open. It wasn't the money that broke me. It was the pause before she answered. My name's Ryan, I'm 20, and I live in a small but decent apartment downtown. I've worked as a project manager at a tech firm for a few years now. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, and I've been steadily climbing. More importantly, I thought I had someone to share it with. Claire, my fiancée. For 3 years, I convinced myself she was the one. We'd talk about wedding venues, kids, and even the idea of buying a house together. I trusted her more than anyone. At least, I thought I did. That day, it was just supposed to be a simple walk in the park. The kind where you talk about nothing important. Maybe grab coffee after, laugh about some jogger's ridiculous outfit. Instead, it turned into the day everything collapsed. We were halfway down the main path when 2 guys suddenly blocked us. One had a camera. The other held a mic like he was about to interview a celebrity. Both were grinning like they'd rehearsed it in the mirror. I didn't even need them to open their mouths to know what this was. TikTok clout chasing. I've seen enough of those stupid social experiment clips to know the setup. I immediately said, "No, thanks, we're not interested." I started to walk around them, but Claire tugged on my hand. Her eyes lit up like a kid being offered free candy. "Come on, Ryan," she whispered. "It'll be fun. Just a few questions." I stared at her, silently pleading for her to take the hint, but she was already smiling at the guy with the mic. Against every bone in my body screaming walk away, I stayed. At first, it was harmless. They asked about her favorite color. Blue. Favorite movie. Some rom-com she'd made me sit through twice. How we met. She laughed. Talked about that first awkward dinner where I spilled water on myself. The camera guy chuckled like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. The whole time, I felt uneasy, like we were being set up for something. And deep down, I already hated myself for staying. Then came the question, the one that would carve a scar into my life. "Would you ditch your fiancé right now?" The guy asked, grinning wide. "For $2 million?" I let out a short laugh, expecting her to shoot it down instantly. I mean, come on. What kind of insult was that? Of course, she'd say no. She loved me. We were engaged. We were supposed to be building a life together. But she didn't answer. Not right away. She froze, her eyes darting between the mic and the camera, then back to me. And in that pause, those few seconds of silence, I swear I felt my heart split. I whispered, "Claire," hoping she'd snap out of it. That's when the cameraman raised his phone, flashing a banking app. $2 million sitting in an account. He said, "We're dead serious. If you say yes, we'll transfer it right now. No catch." I could barely breathe. And then she said it, clear, sharp, like she'd already decided. Yes. My world tilted. My fiancée, my future wife, looked me in the eye and sold me off with a single word. I stood there, numb. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice shaking. Instead of laughing it off, instead of backpedaling, she doubled down. Her lip curled, and she said, "Ryan, you'll never give me that kind of life. You'll never make that kind of money. You're a loser." Loser. In front of strangers. In front of a camera. After 3 years together. The pranksters laughed nervously, probably thinking this was comedy gold. For me, it was a knife shoved straight into my chest. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't beg her to reconsider. Something inside me just switched off. Without another word, I turned and walked away. I could hear her voice behind me, whether she was calling after me or mocking me. I don't know. I didn't look back. By the time I reached the street, I'd already pulled out my phone, opened every app, and blocked her everywhere. Her number, her Instagram, her Snapchat, gone. As I walked home, it felt like I was carrying cinder blocks on my chest. My legs were moving, but the rest of me was hollow. All I could hear was her voice replaying in my head. Loser, loser, loser. That was the day I learned the worst betrayals don't come from enemies or strangers. They come from the person you thought would never hurt you. I didn't look back that day in the park, but when the door shut behind me that night, the silence was deafening. It felt like every sound in the city had been stripped away, leaving just me, my thoughts, and the echo of her voice. Loser. I didn't sleep. I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind on an endless loop of the same few seconds. The pause before she answered. The hesitation told me she considered it. And then the word. Yes. It replayed again and again, like a scratched record I couldn't stop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her mouth forming that single syllable. My stomach twisted, so tight I thought I'd throw up. By sunrise, I hadn't slept a minute. Day 2 started with exhaustion, but it didn't dull the pain. It sharpened it. I stumbled into the kitchen, poured myself coffee, and then froze. On the counter sat the mug she always used, the one with the cheesy "World's Best Fiancé" printed in fading gold letters. She'd bought herself. I stared at it until my hands shook. Then I hurled it into the sink, shattering it into 100 jagged pieces. The crash didn't bring relief, just more emptiness. By afternoon, the anger boiled over again. I grabbed a glass of water, and halfway to my lips, I slammed it against the wall instead. Water streaked down the plaster. Shards glittered on the floor. I pressed my fists into my temples, tried to shut off the noise in my head. Eventually, I ended up in the bedroom, pounding a pillow until my arms gave out. None of it helped. The storm inside me just kept building. On day 3, I went back to work, thinking the routine might anchor me. But the office was worse. My desk felt foreign, like I didn't belong there anymore. My emails blurred together, unreadable. I sat staring at the same spreadsheet for an hour, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. That's when Nora, the co-worker at the desk across from mine, leaned over and whispered, "Ryan, you okay? You look pale." I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." She tilted her head like she didn't believe me, but she didn't push. Still, the concern in her voice made me feel exposed, like she could see the fracture line spiderwebbing across me. I buried myself in busy work, but every time I blinked, I saw Claire's face, her pause, her yes, her smirk when she called me a loser. By day 4, the walls of my apartment started closing in on me. I couldn't sit still. That night, I threw on my running shoes and hit the pavement, sprinting until my lungs burned and my legs turned to jelly. But even then, even with sweat pouring into my eyes and my heart pounding out of my chest, the memory followed me like a shadow. Day 5, I tried the opposite, staying at the office late, past dark, long after everyone else left. I told myself if I worked until I was numb, the exhaustion would drown out everything else. But when I finally dragged myself home, the silence hit me like a hammer. I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the empty spot where she used to sit. My chest ached like someone had reached inside and scooped out everything that mattered. By day 6, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Bloodshot eyes, stubble crawling across my jaw, a tightness in my shoulders that never eased. I was eating garbage, whatever I could microwave. I hadn't smiled in days. The thought of Claire's voice, her hesitation, her yes, haunted me in every quiet moment. On the 7th day, I woke up hollow, not angry, not devastated, just empty, like a house after a fire, where the flames are gone but the walls are blackened and nothing feels alive anymore. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, and realized I hadn't really lived in a week. I was just existing. Barely. The world hadn't collapsed around me. It just kept spinning like nothing happened. But inside, I was wreckage. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't see a way out. On the 7th night, I thought I'd finally sleep. My body felt like lead from the weight of the past week, and for once, my mind wasn't racing. I lay in the dark, breathing steadily, convinced I might drift off. Then came the pounding. Heavy, frantic, shaking the doorframe. Midnight. My heart leapt into my throat. I dragged myself up, pulse hammering, half expecting police or some kind of emergency. When I cracked the door open, the last face I wanted to see stared back at me. Claire. Her hair was a tangled mess, streaked with mascara tears. Her hands clutched the doorway like she was holding on for dear life. She looked nothing like the smug woman from the park who had just sold me out. This version of her was broken. "Ryan, please," she choked out between sobs. "Please let me in. Just for a minute. Please." For a moment, I just stood there, my brain split in two. One half remembering the woman I'd once loved, the other half replaying her voice spitting loser in front of strangers. My knuckles whitened on the door. She kept talking, desperate. "It was a mistake, Ryan. You don't understand. I thought it was real. They showed me the account. They promised me. They kept saying they'd transfer it any day, and then they disappeared. They never gave me a dime." Her words spilled out like she'd rehearsed them, each one trying to claw its way under my skin. I thought I'd have the money. I thought I'd come back and make it up to you. But it was all a scam. They fooled me, and now I have nothing. I let her talk. I didn't move. Inside, my emotions were a battlefield. Anger, pity, disgust, a flicker of the old love I wished I could burn out of myself. Watching her crumble in front of me, part of me almost softened. Almost. Then I remembered the hesitation. The way her eyes lingered on that fake account longer than they ever lingered on me. The venom in her voice when she said I'd never provide her with that kind of life. Loser. That memory was gasoline, and it burned away every fragile spark of sympathy. She pressed her hands together, begging like a sinner a confession. "Ryan, I made a mistake. Please forgive me. I'll do anything. I can't live without you. I was stupid. I see that now." My jaw tightened. For the first time in a week, I actually felt calm, not happy, not forgiving, just clear. She wanted forgiveness because she had nothing left, not because she suddenly loved me more, not because she regretted what she'd done, but because her gamble backfired and she was now broke and humiliated. I let the silence stretch. She searched my face for some hint of hope, some sign I'd take her back. Finally, I spoke. "Claire." My voice was low, steady. "Fuck off." Her eyes widened. For a second, she didn't seem to believe it. Then I closed the door. Just like that. No shouting. No dramatic speech. Just 3 words and the sound of the lock clicking. On the other side, I heard her gasp, then pound on the door again, her sobs growing louder, frantic, almost animalistic. "Ryan, please, don't do this. Please." I didn't answer. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening to the storm beat against the wood, until finally, after what felt like hours, it stopped. The building went quiet again, and I knew she was gone. That night, I didn't sleep either, but not because I was haunted. This time, the silence felt different. It wasn't suffocating. It was cleansing. For the first time since the park, I felt like I'd taken a piece of myself back. I had no idea what the next days would bring. But one thing was certain. Claire wasn't welcome in my life anymore. Not now. Not ever. 2 days later, the pounding returned. But this time it wasn't Claire. I opened the door and froze. Standing there were Mr. and Mrs. Lewis, Claire's parents. The 2 people who used to welcome me into their home with warm smiles, Sunday dinners, and the occasional, "You're good for our daughter." Now they weren't smiling. "Ryan," Mr. Lewis said, his jaw tight. "We need to talk." Mrs. Lewis chimed in before I could answer, her voice carrying the kind of authority only a mother can project. "We know what happened, and we're not going to let you throw away 3 years over one mistake." I leaned against the frame, arms crossed, already feeling my patience fray. "What exactly did Claire tell you?" "That she made a mistake," Mrs. Lewis said quickly. "That she got caught up in something stupid, and you overreacted. But she loves you, Ryan. You can't just walk away from a woman who loves you. My blood ran cold. That wasn't the story. Not even close. And as they stood there lecturing me, one thing became obvious. Claire hadn't told him the truth. Not about the $2 million. Not about the prank. Not about calling me a loser. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to laugh. Of course, she'd lied. Of course. She'd twisted it into something where she was the poor victim, and I was a heartless fiancé who abandoned her. Relationships, Mr. Lewis continued, are about forgiveness. Nobody's perfect. Claire made a poor choice, yes. But if you throw away your engagement over this, you'll regret it. You need to remember the good times, the love you shared. I cut him off, my voice sharper than I intended. Did she mention the money? They blinked, confused. The prank, the camera, the fact that two guys offered her $2 million if she ditched me on the spot. Silence. They looked at each other, their faces blank. She didn't tell you, did she? I said, my voice steady now. She didn't mention how she hesitated, then said yes. She didn't mention how she looked me in the eye and called me a loser. No, she left that part out, didn't she? Mrs. Lewis stammered. That's not what she said. Of course it's not, I snapped, because if she told you the truth, you wouldn't be here trying to guilt me into forgiving her. You'd be wondering how your daughter could throw away her entire life for numbers on a screen. Mr. Lewis straightened, his face hardening. Ryan, don't talk about our daughter like that. She's hurt. She's embarrassed. She needs support, not judgment. I stepped forward, closing the gap, my voice low and final. She needs to take responsibility. And let me make this clear. No matter what she told you, no matter how she spun it, I'm done. With her, with this engagement, with all of it. She betrayed me in a way I'll never forgive. The hallway went still. Mrs. Lewis's eyes darted, desperate, like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Mr. Lewis just shook his head, disappointment etched on his face, but not at his daughter, at me, as if I were the villain for refusing to swallow the lie. Finally, Mrs. Lewis tried one last time. Ryan, don't throw away your future over anger. People make mistakes. You two can work through this. Just talk to her. I let out a bitter laugh. I did, and she told me I was a loser. She made her choice, and I made mine. So you can stand here all day, but it won't change anything. I'm done. Their expressions froze. No more arguments. No more bargaining. Just a cold wall between us. I closed the door slowly, deliberately, locking it with a final click. As I leaned against the wood, exhaling, I realized something. The betrayal didn't stop with Claire. It spread like poison. She'd pulled her parents into her fantasy, painting me as the bad guy, rewriting the script to save herself from judgment. And they bought it. But I wasn't going to let their version of the story dictate my life. Not anymore. I whispered to myself, almost as a reminder, no matter what they say, I'm done with her. And for the first time since the park, I believed it. After closing the door on her parents, I expected another round of begging, another knock, another speech about forgiveness, another scene of tears on my doorstep. But what came instead was silence. And for once, I welcomed it. The days that followed felt strangely calm. No pounding on the door. No late-night phone calls. No desperate DMs from new accounts. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I started to breathe again. I threw myself into work. At first, it was just a distraction, something to fill the hours, so I wouldn't sit at home replaying that day in the park. But soon, I realized I was getting sharper, more focused. The projects I'd been dragging my feet on, I crushed them. Reports that used to take me 3 days, I was finishing in 1. Every time my phone buzzed and I saw it wasn't Claire, it fueled me, like I was reclaiming ground I'd lost. Martin, my boss, noticed. He called me into his office one Thursday afternoon, gestured at the chair across from him. Ryan, he said, adjusting his glasses. I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but keep it up. You're producing more than anyone else on the floor. I nodded, trying to keep my composure, but inside I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Pride. Real pride. The kind that didn't depend on anyone else. 2 weeks later, Martin handed me a promotion. Project lead. Bigger responsibilities, bigger paycheck. He clapped me on the back and said, "You earned this." And for the first time since Claire, I actually believed someone when they told me I was worth something. With the rise came freedom. I started saving more, watching my bank account grow. No more random $300 dinners. Claire insisted on just to keep up appearances. No more buy her new handbags, while my shoes had holes in the soles. I'd been bleeding money for years without realizing it, but now every dollar stayed mine. And it wasn't just the finances. The emotional weight lifted, too. Nights were easier. I could cook for myself, watch whatever I wanted, and not worry about her rolling her eyes at my choices. I started jogging again, not to escape my thoughts this time, but because I wanted to take care of myself. Somewhere in that routine, the anger began to fade. It didn't vanish completely. I'd never forget the look on her face when she said yes, but it dulled, like an old scar that no longer throbbed every time you moved. What took its place was clarity. I realized what I deserved. Someone who saw me as enough. Someone who didn't measure love in dollars and bank accounts. For the first time in months, life felt stable. Not exciting, not flashy, stable. And that was exactly what I needed. But stability has a way of attracting chaos. It happened on a Tuesday evening. I was leaving work late, the office almost empty, when I stepped outside and saw her leaning against my car. Claire. She wasn't crying this time. No mascara streaks. No trembling hands. Instead, her arms were crossed, her chin tilted up like she owned the ground beneath her. The same smug look she'd worn in the park, but sharper now. "Ryan," she said, her voice cool. "We need to talk." Every muscle in my body tensed. "There's nothing left to talk about." She smirked. "Oh, I think there is. See, I've been patient. I tried being nice. I tried apologizing. But you shut me out. So now, if you don't give me what I want, I'll make sure everyone thinks you're the abuser, the liar, the monster. You think people will believe you over me? Please. All I have to do is cry, and they'll eat it up." Her words hit me like a slap. This wasn't desperation anymore. It was war. She wasn't begging for forgiveness. She was threatening to burn down my life unless I handed her the match. I clenched my fists, keeping my voice steady. "You're not getting a dime from me. Not now, not ever." She leaned in, her eyes cold. "Then get ready, Ryan, because I'll ruin you." And with that, she turned on her heel and walked away, heels clicking against the pavement, leaving me standing there under the streetlight with my chest tight and my hands shaking. For a moment, panic surged. What if people believed her? What if she destroyed everything I'd worked to rebuild? But underneath the panic, one thought kept me grounded. She'd underestimated me before, and she was about to do it again. The moment she walked back into my life, I knew this time she wasn't here to beg. She was here to burn it all down. She didn't bother softening her voice or hiding the venom in her tone. She stood outside my office parking lot, arms folded, her glare sharp enough to cut glass. "Ryan," she said, almost casually, "you're going to give me money. And if you don't, I'll make sure the whole world believes you're an abusive piece of shit. All it takes is a few tears, a post or two, and suddenly you're the villain. Do you really want to take that risk?" I held her stare, refusing to flinch. "You're not getting a cent from me." Her lips curved into a cold smile. "Then get ready." She spun on her heel and left, heels clacking against the pavement. I stood there frozen, my breath shallow, hands trembling. Part of me hoped it was an empty threat, but the look in her eyes told me otherwise. And I was right. Within days, the whispers began. A coworker pulled me aside, awkwardly clearing his throat. "Hey, man, Claire's been saying some things about you that you weren't good to her. His eyes darted like he didn't want to be involved. I just thought you should know. My stomach sank. Later that night, I checked my socials. Subtle posts had started popping up from Claire. Vague lines like, "Some men hide behind a smile, but are monsters at home." The kind of post designed to stir sympathy, without saying names. But the people who knew us, they didn't need names. They knew exactly who she was talking about. A few days later, she stopped being vague. She started replying to comments directly. Yes, I'm talking about Ryan. He ruined me. I felt sick. At work, I caught Nora glancing at me strangely, like she wasn't sure what to believe. A few old friends stopped texting back. The pit in my stomach grew heavier every day. I hadn't done anything wrong, but perception was everything. And Claire was a master manipulator. Anxiety gripped me like a vice. I barely slept. Every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened, expecting another wave of her poison. It was like watching someone pour gasoline over my reputation and flicking matches to see if one would catch. For the first time since I had left her, I felt like maybe she really could destroy me. Then fate intervened. It was nearly 2 a.m. on a Thursday when I found it. I was scrolling aimlessly through TikTok, trying to distract myself from the mess. I wasn't even looking for anything connected to her. I just wanted noise in my brain. That's when I stumbled across a no-name account. Barely any followers. Random clips stitched together, most of them junk. But then I froze. The thumbnail was familiar. Too familiar. Claire. Me. The park. My heart thudded in my chest as I clicked. The video played, shaky but clear. The pranksters. The mic. The same smug smiles. Claire laughed at the easy questions. And then there it was. The moment. Would you ditch your fiancé right now for $2 million? I watched the hesitation again, like a knife sliding into me all over again. I watched the way she shifted her weight, eyes darting, then the word, yes. And then, as if the universe wanted to hand me justice on a silver platter, the video didn't cut. It kept rolling, capturing her calling me a loser, capturing the way I walked away, capturing it all. My hands shook as I hit download. My mind raced a mile a minute. She'd been trying to paint me as an abuser, to destroy my life. But here it was. Proof. Not from me, not from my word against hers, but from a video broadcast of the world. I didn't sleep that night, but for the first time in weeks, it wasn't from fear. It was adrenaline. The next day, Claire escalated. She made a long post, paragraphs of fabricated stories about me. How I isolated her, how I controlled her, how I destroyed her self-esteem. The comments poured in with sympathy. People wrote, "You're so strong for sharing this." Others said, "Screw Ryan, he doesn't deserve you." And that's when I struck. I uploaded the video, the full uncut clip. No edits, no context from me. Just her words, her choice, her insults, her betrayal, raw and undeniable. At first, silence. Then the flood. Comments exploded. People who had been defending her turned instantly. Wait, this is the same guy you're talking about? You called him a loser for not having $2 million. Are you serious? And you wanted him back? For real? Her carefully crafted narrative crumbled in real time. Screenshots of her lies were stitched next to the video, exposing every contradiction. People she thought were allies unfollowed. Some even commented, "Yeah, I can't support you after this." Claire tried damage control, of course. She posted frantic explanations. It was a prank. I didn't mean it. They pressured me. But it didn't matter. The video showed her hesitation. The way she smiled at the offer. The way she called me a loser. No spin could erase it. By the end of the week, she vanished. Deleted her posts. Stopped showing up anywhere I might see her. Friends stopped mentioning her name. It was like she'd evaporated. For the first time since the park, I felt free. Not just surviving, free. I stared at the video one last time, not with pain, but with clarity. That TikTok didn't ruin my life. It saved my future. Hey, what would you have done if your fiancé ditched you like that in front of the camera? Think I should have forgiven Claire when she came back crying, or was walking away the only choice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're into stories like this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one.